Okay. All right, let's get into it. All right, let me hit broadcast and we're good to go. Let's have some fun with it, Nick. Okay, welcome, everybody. As you're joining us here today, we want to welcome you to this episode of the Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. As we get started here, I want to introduce our guests, but first, we want to make sure that we've got everybody joining us from the Zoom room. We appreciate those folks who are joining us live at the table via Zoom. If you could just say hello in the chat box, we would love to see who's joining us throughout the episode. If you've got any questions for Nick, please feel free to use the chat box as well. We also want to welcome all of our community from LinkedIn. We broadcast live every Thursday afternoon on LinkedIn Live. Hello, Sarah. We also want to thank and welcome our folks from YouTube and Facebook. We're live on YouTube and Facebook as well. For those of you who are joining via those streams, we would love for you to say hello. So please drop your name or a comment in the comment box. As well, I'll be checking those periodically for questions for Nick throughout. So thank you everybody for joining. This is the second of our July series called Small Business Strong. And as I was prepping for this episode, I had to go back because Nick was episode 1, guest 1. And I'm just thrilled and humbled that he's back on the show today. And I had to do some math. It was about 15 weeks ago that we launched this series. And our goal really is to bring leaders to the table every week to talk about how they are navigating the current state of business. And in July, we're really focused on small businesses. And so we wanted to have Nick back at the table. It took some convincing, but Nick finally said yes and made some room in his schedule. I know he's almost working around the clock these days. So I want to welcome him here in a moment. We've got some other guests throughout the rest of the month, including my twin sister next week, which I can't wait for. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode today. But again, we want to thank everybody who's joining us live via Zoom. Use the chat box throughout for comments, questions for Nick. Those of you who are joining from LinkedIn and Facebook, welcome. We would love to say hello to you as well too. So definitely use the comment box for that. I want to introduce our guest. For those of you who do not know Nick, I feel like he's now not only a friend of Thoughtium's, but almost a family member. Nick Rodriguez is the founder of Train Moment. This is an exciting new fitness brand here in Chicago. And we're going to talk a little bit about Nick and his company, his brand, his team today. But Nick shared with us about 15 weeks ago his mentality, his approach, his process at not only building a business, but staring this shelter in place like dead in the face. He had some great ideas in terms of the way that he and his team were going to pivot. He shared those ideas with us, and I'm so excited to have him back at the table today because he has not only talked about this pivot and this transition, he and his entire team have actually made it happen. And we're going to explore that a little bit today. So Nick, thank you so much for joining and welcome back to the Roundtable.
Yes, great to be here. Thanks for having me, Anthony. Like you said, it's been 15 weeks. Feels like it's been like 2 years. Everything that's happened in between time.
Yeah.
And but it's been beautiful. You know, we've been able to really capitalize on everything going on and shifting, yep. And everybody's in the same boat that we're in as Americans, as small business owners, and we're just trying to do the best we can while creating value and enhancing people's lives.
Well, I really appreciate that. I appreciate the perspective. And I know, I've got a handful of questions that I hope to get to a few of today. But first and foremost, I really just want to pause and I want to thank you personally. As I mentioned 15 weeks ago, all of us, and I see a lot of my teammates here that have joined today, we're facing a lot of uncertainty. And, I think that affected all of us as business leaders, as entrepreneurs, as teammates, as family members in different ways. And, I think as you look back at these pivotal points in life, you have these experiences, these images, and sometimes these conversations with people that you just feel like will never leave you. They've left such an impression. And through the course of the first several weeks of, us realizing what we had on our hands, somehow, some way, you and I connected through several conversations, through having you on the show. And I would say your leadership, your tone, your words have just made such an impression on myself, on my team, on our community. And I want to thank you for leading the way that you have over the course of the last several months. It's been quite incredible to be a part of and incredible to see.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I've been a natural born leader since a young age. But to be a good leader, you have to learn how to be a good follower first. And I've been able to be led by some fantastic leaders. I've been able to be led by some less than fantastic leaders. And, you can learn from both. So you can learn from any situation you're in, good ones, bad ones, everything in between.
Absolutely. So Tyrone in the chat just called it, Nick is a legend. So I think we can probably just leave it at that and end the episode. But Tyrone, you are absolutely right. Thanks for chiming in. So Nick, why don't we start first with some updates, but maybe start with, who are you? Who is Train Moment? For those who are tuning in maybe for the first time, tell us a little bit about Train Moment. Tell us a little bit about Nick. And then I want to get into maybe some of the updates, the progression over the course of the last couple months since the last time we talked.
Right on. Yeah. So, I'm from Texas, born and raised, lived there till 18. So moving away, going to what I like to call, when I have conversations, I say I went to a small school in the Midwest, and a lot of people ask or whatever, follow up on it. And I went to Notre Dame. So I try to be that guy that, that doesn't just come out and say, I went to Notre Dame.
Right.
Played a little football there, was a lifelong athlete, really just fell in love with the process of sport, of training for sport, working hard and seeing the progress and the benefit that you get from the hours that you put in when nobody else is there, before the games, after the games. And so really just fell in love with the process of hard work and seeing how that comes to fruition in game time, right? You put so many hours together behind the scenes for an hour-long game, right? Or an hour-long podcast or video cast, right? So, I learned a lot through just, failures, injuries, setbacks, and just continue to move. So, was blessed to play a little football at the University of Notre Dame. And, of course, like every kid, their dream, every kid athlete, their dream is to play professional sports. That wasn't in my deck of cards. And, but it was all good. I learned a ton through sport, through exercise, through training, studied marketing and psychology, double majored in those subjects, and worked in advertising for a few years after I graduated in Miami, Florida, and Detroit. So, I was going through the ranks there. I kind of lost the passion for life that I had as an athlete from the age of 4 to 22. Sports and athletics just dictated everything that I did, everything that I didn't as well, right? Why I got up, why I went to sleep early, why I didn't go to this party, why I didn't stay out late, right? The discipline that I had instilled in myself, and kind of lost that in my corporate endeavors. And I just wanted something that inherently drove me, and I could get up at 4 a.m. and be ready to go. And so I did a lot of soul searching, and what was that? Trying to figure out what I wanted to. What did Nick want to do with his life? What was I created to do? What are my skill sets? What are my passions? And how can I align those? And not worry about the money. The money will come if I can provide value to people and work my butt off. And so, yeah, the answer to that was getting into the area of fitness. And so just came up on my 8-year anniversary in Chicago. So I left Detroit, got out of the corporate world, was at a fork in the road of either going to get my MBA and kind of dedicate my life to the corporate path, or go off on this passion project. I was 25 years old, and I said, heck, I can fail. If I fail, and I'm a single man, don't have any children, I'll be able to rebound. My mom has a place for me back in Texas. I moved to Chicago 8 years ago. Just took any opportunity that I could get my hands on in the fitness world, whether it was just working a front desk, teaching boot camp, teaching Pilates. My first job actually was a Pilates instructor, my first job in fitness. I had never even taken a Pilates class, but they were looking for somebody that, more of an athlete to teach Pilates. And so they got me all trained up and certified. And so that was an interesting experience, and just a great experience to, get out of my comfort zone and learn something totally new, right? Something that I wasn't naturally good at or gifted at, and get out of the comfort zone and jump towards that. And so I've just parlayed a lot of different opportunities in fitness. It was big national brands, small local mom and pop shops here in Chicago. So just got a great perspective of the industry. Was able to work my way up from an intern in a little small boutique strength training facility that opened in Chicago back in, I think, 2011 or 2012. Interned there for about 4 months for free. Worked my way up eventually over the course of a year and a half to own about 25% of the company, and then had the reins of the company, ran the company for a while, was able to grow it and really manage all the operations and see the ins and outs of running a small fitness business. I was able to parlay that and jump off and create my own concept from the ground up, another one-on-one training facility, which I did in 2015, I want to say, March of 2015. I was there for about 3 years and departed from that company and set myself up to create Train Moment here, which is my first endeavor in ownership of a group training facility. And I've been doing that along with my wife, which has been a blessing and amazing. She's my business partner. She's the best business partner I've ever had for a lot of reasons. She really balances me out and picks up where my skills are lacking. And then she's also, I can trust her tremendously. I know without a shadow of a doubt, even if we're in disagreements about something, that at the end of the day, we strongly are aligned in the same vision and that we want the same thing. So that's been amazing to be able to create something with my wife. And so we really started on the journey of Train Moment in early 2019, about February 2019. We knew we wanted to do something for a few months before that. And then 2019, we had it kind of solidified in a way what it was. The concept was Train Moment here, which, is really, we call it a strength forward group training, which is quite different than a lot that's out there in the group fitness space. A lot of times group fitness, like, Orange Theory or Shred 415 or Barry's Boot Camp, they're very cardio based, or the majority cardio based training, and so I wanted to, being from a background of strength training, I wanted to be able to bring that to the masses at a price point that's more approachable than one-on-one personal training. Not a lot of people can afford $100, $120 an hour to train. And so, I didn't get to work with a lot of the market with that. And so I wanted to bring some really good quality strength training to people at prices that a greater amount of the population could participate in. Yeah. That's so incredible. February 2019.
What a journey.
Yeah, it's been beautiful. It's been, that's the cliff notes. There's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of failures and setbacks. And over theme in my life, I guess, is, always getting back up from failure, getting knocked down, right? You get slapped in the face, you get smacked, you get knocked down, you get back up. And that's the story of anybody that's, had any kind of success in life. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody's doing it, right? That's what they say. And that's the truth of it. You got to get up, you got to keep betting on yourself. You got to keep going when things say no.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I really appreciate you taking us through really your life's journey. You and I haven't really talked about the progression from, high school. I knew you played college athletics, but everything that has gone into what is now, your own in Train Moment. And before we get into kind of, the way that you're leading today and the way that you're shaping the brand today, I want to talk a little bit about brand, because I know it's really important to you. I know it's also really important to Katie. She and I have talked about that, right? The Train Moment water bottles. I mean, your brand is very distinct, and you can tell that it's also very, very intentional. And it's more than just a look and feel. Now, I will pause and say the look and feel is something else. I mean, the space is gorgeous. The branding is gorgeous. It just feels different. I've not only walked through the space and been in it, but I've worked out in it as well too. But it also reflects who you are, and not just you and Katie, but the community that you're building, the experiences that you're delivering. I want to ask, at what point did you acknowledge or recognize that brand was so important? Was it before you decided to start Train Moment? And did you have some idea on what your ethos was going to be all about?
Yeah, certainly. And, branding, that is my wife's department. She's, I got to give her all the love and kudos for that. She's just got an amazing eye for design and simplicity. Less is more. That's just overall our branding style. It's black and white. It's clean, it's straight lines. And, so she's just done an amazing job of just making sure that we stay on a strict path of what our brand is, so we know what we are and know what we're not. Me, on the other hand, I like to do all these things with branding, but she keeps me in line. So yeah, we knew we wanted to put together just a tremendously cohesive brand. We're a mom and pop shop. Most people are just like blown away. They see us on social media or online or even just walk by our building, see it, and they think we came from somewhere else. A lot of, that we're a franchise or something, because everything is put together so beautifully by my wife. And, we knew just how competitive the landscape is in fitness and how much more it's getting competitive, that we just wanted to put together a very well polished and put together product to be able to help us, create something from nothing. And so we've been able to really create a brand that's become strong in people's minds. Our online presence just really matches what happens when you step inside the studio, and what you see with our new digital business as well. It's just very cohesive, right? And it's been a lot of fun.
Tell us a little bit too. So, brand, I think is so important. And I've just really enjoyed the evolution of the brand. And for those of you who are tuning in and watching, Nick is actually sitting in the center of his space. And, this Zoom room does no justice when you walk in. I mean, it is just absolutely beautiful, very clean, very minimal, but also very communal. And the space reflects the experience, and the experience is one of complete immersion. I just took one of my first classes a few weeks ago as, Nick and his team were starting to let people back indoors. And part of the experience is at the very beginning. And for some reason, this will always stick with me, because I looked at my business partner, Norm, who was working out next to me, and we looked at each other and said, "Ooh, this is legit." And that's at the very beginning of the workout, when the music starts and the shades go down in unison. And it's like, it just tells you like, it's time to go in a way that you wouldn't at an Orange Theory or a big box gym. So again, brand, it can be found in so many different things, not just your water bottles, but the total experience. Tell me a little bit about your team, Nick, because your team also plays a big, big part, obviously, in the delivery of the experience. And I just get the sense in meeting your team and getting to know them that they all have a certain DNA that, again, you might not find in other gyms, particularly other gyms that might try to create a lot of diversity of thought and methodology and creativity. It just feels like you've got more of a family than a team. So tell us a little bit about your team.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. More of a family than a team. I mean, we love each other. Like we say we love you to like all of our team, and it's beautiful. And it's just been amazing to be able to put the components together. There is only one individual that we knew for longer than like 6 months before we opened up.
Wow.
Sarah, I believe she's on today. She's awesome.
She is. Yeah. She says hello.
She is she was a client for the last couple concepts that I've been involved with, and become friend, and then now become coworker and part of our family here. And it's been a beautiful story. So she was the only one that had any kind of history, and I knew that she loved the way that we trained strength forward, and she got it. And we're very grateful to bring her on our team. And then our other coaches, we got highly recommended from different places for the most part. One individual, Ovi, I did a lot of stalking on Instagram, all of 2019, trying to, follow and look at different instructors that caught my eye, right? And, I'd follow them and, kind of see what they were posting, see what they're about, see what they're talking about on a training perspective, on a life perspective. I'd go sneak in to take one of their classes at a studio they were coaching, and I'd spark up conversation if things felt like I should, right? And so that happened with Ovi, and it was fantastic. And he's just learned a ton with us. He's brought a lot to the table. He's young, so we have two young boys that I'm super just blown away by. Ovi and Matt, they're 22 years old, super young. And
these Thundercats, these young Thundercats.
I just wish my head was on my shoulder when I at 22. And so we've just been, blessed to come around some really high quality individuals. And then, so our director of training, so we have a director of training, Coach K, Mama K, Khalida. We brought her over, and we actually found her on social media as well. My wife and I, she's just this amazing, excuse my language, badass female,
For sure.
mother of two, a cancer survivor, just beating so many odds in life. And she just has this amazing energy. She was just born to be a coach and an instructor. Like, she gets it. She's so clear with her words, and she knows how you're feeling because she lives it, she does it, just like all of our coaches do. And so we brought her on at the last minute, right before we were about to open up. My intention fully was always to have a director of training, to really lead the staff and just head up the, I had, the methodology and everything that Train Moment is from a training perspective. I've had that in my head for years. The concept, right? I just needed to have the person to take it and run with it, because I'm not a group coach. I've done a lot of one-on-one stuff, and it's very different dynamic, getting a group of people to do things versus a one-on-one, right? And we couldn't find the right person, leading up to it. And then, a few months before, we're like, okay, we're not going to have it. We're just going to have, a staff of people, and we'll see if somebody steps up and becomes, a director. But we came across Khalida, my wife and I, and met with her. And man, we we didn't realize how much we needed her until we were sitting there having that interview conversation with her. And we just knew, right? I offered the position right there in the middle of the interview without even consulting with my wife, because I knew she was, I could just tell, I knew we were resonating and feeling the same way, you know? And so, you know, which is very rare. Like I always consult with my wife on everything, but I just knew the way the conversation was going that, like, yeah. And so, you know, funny story. So we depart from that interview. Kalita walks out one door, and me and my wife just look at each other, and we're just like, like so excited,
that moment.
Right? And then, you know, come to find out, she was on the other side of that door doing the same thing. So it was just a match made in heaven. You know, she was a blessing for us, a blessing for her. So that's how that happened. And then we've had another coach that came on as a client, her and her husband. And, you know, so she was a coach as well, but, you know, it spoke volumes to me that she paid for our service, right? She's a professional in this. She came and paid for it, her and her husband. And then she started dropping some hints that, you know, she was potentially interested in being a part of everything. And so she's been, her name is Jessica, and she's been a fantastic addition to the team. So
it's incredible. You know, as you go through the list of these names, as a consumer of, you know, your classes and your brand, it's like I know all of them already, and that has been through, you know, my experience of starting with you all virtually during the lockdown, which we'll talk about here in a moment, but now coming back live. And I'll tell you, you know, as we listen to Nick talk about his selection process, or even just trusting his instincts as he's bringing a team on, it speaks volume as to the decision making that you've done, Nick, to build the team, because I know that you get a lot of really incredible feedback about your trainers and how, you know, they all just feel like they're, again, on the same page. We have a question coming through from the Zoom chat that I think would just be great for you to address. This is actually from my business partner, Norm, who, you know, I know he's thinking about this because we talk about it a lot, about how do we, you know, continue to empower our team? How do we continue to develop our team? And he wants to know, how, you know, do you build that all-in mentality? And it's interesting, Nick, because I didn't know that, you know, for your team, it was all folks that you didn't have years and years and years of history with. So as you bring on new folks into your family, how do you create that all-in mentality?
I don't know. That's a great question. You know, you just got to identify people that are just love your brand to begin with, and love what you got going on through and through, especially as you're creating something from nothing and from the ground up. You know, everybody on the ground floor has to just be ecstatic and just fully bought into what you're doing, right? Nobody can be, oh, it's pretty cool. I like what they got going on there. People have to just be gung-ho about it, right? So, you know, it's having those conversations, you know, working out with them, having work conversations with them, life conversations with them. And, you know, and you know, you're hiring somebody to do a job, to do a function, right? So one, they need to be qualified and good at that, right? And then on the other thing, you're hiring somebody that is going to represent your brands, right? So what kind of person is this person outside of the studio, when they're off the clock? Is this authentic to them? Do they align with our brand and our ethos and everything we're trying to represent, right? And you know, it's a resounding heck yes for all of our coaches. You know, they live it. They live it. They breathe it. You know, they all come in and take classes with each other, and you know, so it's beautiful.
Well, and I think one of the things that we're all realizing, as you know, business has gotten a little bit more refined or localized. Businesses are constricting. We're all getting creative with our business models. We're realizing also that everybody has their own personal brand as well too. And I think one of the great things about your team is that I can interact, for example, with Matt's personal brand on Instagram, and it feels very reflective of what I'm going to get in your training space. So to your point, that connection between their personal life and their professional life is super key. And I can imagine in fitness even more so, because most fitness instructors, you know, they've built a specific brand for themselves in their reputation, in, the feedback in their social media, et cetera. And it's really cool to see that your team, can live and breathe the train moment lifestyle outside of TM, and also represent it when they're inside the walls. We've got a couple of folks that are also checking in. Brittany Williams, thanks so much for joining. Brittany's talking about how each coach is incredible. So fun to hear these backstories on how it came to be. Jessica Cass, thank you so much for joining. She's a regular here, and I know Jessica's just been so impressed, Nick, with your leadership. So Jessica, thank you for joining. Let's talk a little bit about the last 15 weeks. So, as I mentioned, I had to do the math, and I couldn't believe that it was 15 weeks ago that we had you on the show. And, it's become one of these, I like to relate to people through stories. I'm a storyteller. It's like my favorite thing to do. I give toasts, I tell stories. If I could be a professional toast giver, I would be. So I relate through stories, and I will tell you the story for me through this pandemic has been the outside in view that I have had of several small businesses that have immediately stopped and stepped back and understood that these times are totally different, and we've got to do something. We got to do something for our people. We got to do something for our clients and our customers, and we can't just talk about it. We may not know the solutions, but we are going to put pen to paper. We're going to show what we call in design thinking creative confidence, and we're going to put something forward, and we're going to get feedback, and we're going to refine. And to know that over the course of the last 15 weeks or 4 months or so, Nick, you and your team have been doing that iteration and that evolution is something really exciting. And again, the story that I love to tell is the conversation that you and I had prior to realizing how serious this shelter in place was going to be. And you were talking a little bit about, just the philosophy of moving from a brick and mortar to more of a media company. And, it was something that you were interested in and focused on. And it wasn't maybe 8 to 10 weeks later, I came and I visited your space, and you had stood up a digital media platform that was serving up, virtual training experiences. And when I tell you these are not the same experiences that you see on Facebook Live and Instagram Live, I know where you started. What they've built now is something that is sustainable well beyond what we're dealing with here, but also incredibly approachable for people who cannot show up to your space. So I love to tell this story, and I maybe want to have you tell the story through, your eyes as a business leader, what the last 4 months have been.
Yeah. All right. And it has been a story. It's been a ride. We had to close our doors on March 16th for the pandemic. We chose to close our doors, about a week before it was mandated. We just saw, the writing on the wall, and, we wanted to do our part. It didn't feel right. We opened up on Monday, March 16th. We had 2 classes in the morning, and, there was just a heaviness in the air. It didn't feel right. It's always been so good and so positive, and then there's just this energy inside a train moment. And, people are just looking around, and people are just kind of nervous. It was right when everything was just kind of hitting the fan, right? And I hated the feeling of, people feeling some type of negativity in our space, right? And so we brought the team together. Most of the team was actually there that day for whatever reason, taking classes and coaching. And we made the decision that we were gonna, shut the doors. Of course, at the time it was until the end of the month, right? That was what most people were doing, for a couple of weeks. So we ended up, we saw a lot of companies sending out emails and stuff throughout that time. But when we chose, somebody, I believe it was Ovi, who's just very savvy, Coach Ovi, when it comes to media and online presence and everything. It was we should do a video, right? And so that just so much more approachable than email, and you get to see us. And so we had this video where the entire staff was talking about shutting our doors and how much we were going to miss everybody and everything, and we got a lot of great reception from that. And I think the team just felt really good all being together to be able to do that, right? It was a bittersweet time and moment for sure. Just we were literally like 4 months in to operations. So yeah, we opened up middle of November and had a very solid start. And then we really started picking up momentum really well in the end of February, into March. That last month we were just picking up steam really nicely right before we closed.
Yep.
But by that night, I just knew that we were going to be transitioning and doing things digitally. And the very next day we started providing free content, free workouts via Instagram 3 times a day. Our coaches were just amazing. I wanted to provide these services.
Those Saturday mornings with Matt, I'll never, I had never met Matt, but his energy on IG Live. And I'll tell you, the first one that I did, I was almost, prior to, I was complaining to friends, I don't want to work out in my living room. Like, that jazzercise stuff isn't for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first session I had with Matt, I was like, okay, this is something different.
Yeah, certainly. We wanted to be able to bring, first and foremost, we wanted to be able to serve our clients that had been in our space, right? We knew we weren't able to serve them inside of our physical space, but we knew they wanted to work out, right? So we wanted to be able to provide that service to them. We also, our coaches, they love coaching, right? That's it's a passion of theirs, right? So, I didn't want to take that away from them. So gave them the opportunity to do that digitally. And I also, kept some money coming in for them as well.
Yep.
We provided those as the company for free. But we posted the coaches' Venmo accounts, so they received donations and tips and whatnot, which was great. And so it was just, and the coaches, all their reaction to it was like, they were kind of skeptical at first, like, oh, I don't know how this is going to feel, like coaching digitally, but like they really loved it and enjoyed it, and still really, felt authentic to them because they see the interaction with the comments and the emojis and whatnot on screen. So I think it scratched the itch of our clients and also our coaches, and kept people just like some sense of normalcy. And physical outlets are just amazing when things are stressful, and things were stressful, right? People where didn't know what was going on with their jobs, and so we wanted to be able to really we really positioned it as just trying to bring some light into the dark times that were happening, right?
Yep.
And it was, being able to provide that for free was a blessing. We said we were going to offer them for free. I didn't think it was going to end up being for like 3.5 months, but we were, I'm honored and humbled to say we were able to do that the entire time, provide that free content. And then, along the way.
Yeah. Well, so I don't mean to cut you off, but I almost want to acknowledge that you immediately went to action in service of your customers. You used a platform that was essentially free. You asked your trainers to essentially serve your customers from home, and you knew that it was going to be a little uncomfortable, but you realized right away that your team was not only okay with it, but they were starting to get some momentum from it.
Yeah.
How early on did you know that this was going to lead to then what is maybe now the phase that you're in right now, which is more of an official digital media platform?
Yeah. Train Moment at Home. We launched it's a separate entity and company. And, I really knew from that same night, Monday night that we closed, had the impression on my heart. I'm a very faith-based individual, and that was put on me that evening. And I knew it wasn't of my own thinking, because digital training has been something that's been presented to me for years, and I've always shut it down. I'm a very much an experienced person, in-person experienced person. I want people inside of our space. I want to see people, and I just didn't like the aspect of, I didn't think I liked the aspect of digital training. And, I want to experience with somebody physically. And But then, so I knew it wasn't for me, this idea, and those are usually the best ones if they're not for me.
Right, because it gets you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and and then seeing how the momentum picked up with it, and how we were still able to impact people's lives, right, and give them a great experience. And I was like, I was wrong about the perception of the digital training. You can still impact people's lives. You can still change people's lives, and be that brightness through a screen. So, yeah.
Do you think that it was, and I want to double click on, going in, you had this perception of, this digital offering, and, making the transition and actually like touching, feeling it, putting it out there yourself, you started to realize, wow, this has some legs. Do you think that it was the application or the marriage of bringing your brand and what you were really trying to accomplish in the brick and mortar to the digital platform that allowed you to see the real potential?
I think what really allowed me to further see the potential was that, like, most training out there digitally, and even in the brick and mortar space, and that's what I've been able to do. What we've been able to do with Train Moment is be that strength forward training, less cardiovascular, heavier weights than you typically see. And so most digital stuff is completely cardio conditioning, high reps, low weight, body weight. And so we wanted to be able, we did most of the time during the shutdown and everything, we did workouts that were body weight based, just because we knew most people didn't have equipment at home, and we wanted to be able to still cater to them. Then we started to create and give some offerings for people that had weights at home as well. But I knew I wanted to, in the same way we kind of went after the segment of the market that wanted to lift heavier weights and strength train, I wanted to do that digitally as well, and saw just like kind of the gap in the market there, because most, 95% of stuff is body weight or super light weights, 5, 7, 10 pound dumbbells, right? And so I wanted to bring something that, was a little bit more strength forward.
Yeah, I love that. So, Nick's a real humble guy. I'll continue kind of my, the story through my lens. So, I have this discussion with Nick at the beginning of the pandemic. He's talking about potentially moving digitally. He got even me involved in workouts over Instagram, which ironically, I live 12 stories above the studio. So it was just so ironic how I was doing these workouts in my apartment with the studio downstairs. When you started to build for this digital platform, this was maybe 8-10 weeks in, I came down and visited the space. It was still shut down, but you were starting to stand up what is now your studio that serves almost two purposes, right? Which are, the studio for the live workouts, which you all have been able to bring some of that back, but you're also now doubling your space as almost a production studio. And when I say production studio, he's not in there with a webcam and a $20 mic. I mean, that space was, it looks like it almost was designed for this type of delivery, between the lighting and the shades. And now you've got specific times where you're recording and you're delivering digitally, and specific times where you have people indoors. So I want to maybe ask you a little bit about like this new business model, and like, how does it work? So you've got a digital product, you've got a live product. How do you balance the two? And you and I talked about, how did you get started? I mean, there was even just some talk about like, you needed to learn about how to serve this content up. So you went online and you looked at different platforms that could serve the content up. Tell me a little bit about the new business model, and tell me about like, where did you start in terms of like creating it?
Yeah, so it was, my wife really took the lead on finding the platform, and originally we were thinking we were going to potentially create something from the ground up to serve our content, which is extremely expensive, right, to do. We're gonna partner with somebody to be an equity partner and do that for us. But then it just we were able to find, a platform that, really hit like our boxes that we're looking for at a fraction of the cost of creating something. And, maybe one day down the line, that's something that we can grow into. But for now, and that's a beautiful thing, almost everything that you want technology wise, there's something out there. There's a provider, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so we found a great platform. It's called Uscreen. And originally the concept was going to be that we were just going to have pre-recorded videos, high quality production, on demand videos. You press play, and it takes you through, and it's almost like personal training, in your own home. And it's for people that have a decent amount of at-home fitness equipment, the two biggest. So again, like with what I'm doing, with what we're doing here at the brick and mortar train moment and online, like I'm not trying to go for the vast majority of the market. There's segments of the market. And if we get enough of those people, we'll be quite successful, right? Not everybody wants to strength train the way that we want to strength train in our brick and mortar. Not everybody wants to strength train at home digitally. And not everybody has an adjustable bench and, some dumbbells, right, to work with. And those are the two biggest kind of pieces of equipment that you need to do our on-demand platform. And so we knew we were excluding quite a bit of the market with that. And then, a few weeks before we actually launched, I was like, hit me, man, people are really digging live workouts right now for whatever reason, even though it's still served up over a screen. They like the interaction. Why don't we do live and on-demand content, right? And so then, started to transition into that, and the platform Uscreen supports live production as well, which is fantastic. And so we're also able to widen our reach in that, so if you want to do the on-demand portion, the more strength intensive, that requires about $300 worth of equipment at home. You can do that, or our live workouts are you need like 1 to 2 sets of dumbbells and some exercise bands, or you could even use some heavy household objects, right? So that increased the market of people that we could reach with that offering. And we also do some body weight workouts with that live as well. So we can really hit a wider spectrum with that while still being true and strength forward to our brand. But if and we have people that do both, right? You can do the live stuff, and then you can also do our more intensive strength and conditioning platform, on-demand stuff. And our on-demand stuff, like that's really truly our bread and butter and what we want to be able to grow. Right now, the live is holding us, and it's just times kind of, and it's an easier entry point for people. You don't need as much of equipment. But the on-demand stuff, it's just beautifully produced, high quality content. I'd say that we're up there with the top 10%, like quality production wise of what the video looks like and feels like when you watch it. And in the value that you get from it, it's world-class coaching and programming. I collaborated with a good friend of mine who's just a big-time collegiate and professional. He trains a lot of professional and collegiate athletes. And so he really took the reins on the programming for that. So it's just, it's programming that you would have to pay $100 a session for. And the way that it's produced, you can do it like seamlessly and very easily from home.
Yeah. I love it. As I hear you talk about, everything that you've been able to accomplish and try over the course of the last couple months, I'm reminded about, as entrepreneurs, there are times where we almost get paralyzed in decisions that we have to make, risks that we have to take, pivots that we have to make. And I think as entrepreneurs, we've all experienced over the last couple of months that we are now in a world where we just have to have the confidence to move forward no matter what. So I want to ask you a little bit about that. What gives you the confidence to try when you don't necessarily know what the outcome will be.
Yeah, I love the concept of, fail and fail fast. So you got to, failing and failing fast is better than failing because you didn't try, or you were paralyzed by fear to not try something, right? That's paralyzing, and fear and not doing something is always going to end up with a result that's unwanted, right? Running at something 100 miles per hour, hopefully it's the right thing. If it's not the right thing, you'll find out quickly if it's not, if you're running at it quickly, right? And being able to cut your losses quickly is, I think that's another big theme of my life and my professional career and trajectory is, I've had a stint of jobs that I had for 2 weeks and cut bait on it because I just realized that, could I have, floundered it here for whatever months or years? Yes. But when I realized it wasn't for me, I got out, and at times, like, I'd question myself. I'd be like, man, am I flaky? Like, am I like,
yeah.
But I had some people speaking to me and just confirm that, I was making the right decisions. And, one of the biggest ones, like, I left this fitness job after 2 weeks. I thought it was a job that I thought it was my dream job that I thought I wanted, getting into fitness. And I found out it wasn't very quickly. And so I, left very quickly after 2 weeks with them. And that very day that I left, I was able to find a Craigslist posting for another position that actually shouldn't have still been posted. They were going to take it down the next couple of days because they had already filled it. But they saw my resume and met with me anyway. And I had a fantastic, about a year and a half stint with that company and learned a ton from them and with them. So, if I didn't cut bait quickly on that one position, I would have missed out on that one opportunity.
I love it. What I'm hearing you say is agility. And I know that that's also a very athletic term. I think of football, right? Immediately when I think of that word, but the ability to move and react and feel confident in your decision-making. And, I personally, I think we're all getting a high dose of agility, or the need to stay agile over the course of the last several months. So it's just incredible to hear your process. I want to talk a little bit before we maybe take a question or two. I want to ask you also about flexibility. I mean, I feel like the fitness industry, more than any other, has been asked to be extremely flexible over the last couple of months. How are you staying flexible? How are you able to react to the news of the day? You got to be outdoor, you got to be indoor, you got to be virtual, you got to be live. Maybe that feels different than going in thinking I've got this very specific business model. Like, how have you been able to increase your flexibility? Are there certain things you're letting go of, certain people you're talking to? What's allowed you to stay flexible?
Yeah, I mean, I think, communication with my business partner / wife, I have a very easy line of communication there. We live together, right? So that's helped a ton with, being able to have conversations anytime. And, we spend a ridiculous amount of time together, which is fantastic, and allows us to have those conversations right when they come up, right when we need them. Our director of training, Kay, is involved with a lot of those as well, as a big component of our company, and we spend a lot of time together. She's our one full-time employee with us, and everyone else is contractors, and they teach anywhere from 2 to 10 classes a week, right? But Kay is here with us 6 days a week, right? So we spend a lot of time together. So having that proximity and being able to, address things head on and in person, or even over the phone or digitally is ideal. And just knowing that at the end of the day, we, our values align in what we want to do. What do we want to do? We want to be able to impact people's lives in the area of health and wellness. Does that get shifted because of everything that's going on and city ordinances and state ordinances and everything? Certainly. But at the end of the day, how can we mold ourselves and fit in and still at the end of the day meet our objective of enhancing people's lives and impacting them on a daily weekly basis through the area of health and wellness. And, we've been able to create an awesome ecosystem to be able to do that indoor, outdoor, or online.
It's been incredible to see. We had a couple questions around the team, which I think you did a really good job of handling earlier. A lot of people are really interested about like how do you hire the right people? How do you trust your instincts in hiring? And again, Nick, I appreciate you kind of tackling that earlier on in the discussion. We have one or two questions around kind of what's next, maybe for fitness, and I'm also hearing, do you feel like this is going to forever change the fitness business model, what we're going through today?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. There'll certainly be some long-lasting, everlasting changes, and hopefully changes for the better in a lot of ways. I have, so originally our capacity in our classes was 33 people in our classes. We have 3 zones that we train in, 11. So there could be 11, 11, and 11. That's been drastically cut down. We've been operating at severely lower capacity, and now we're getting down to, as of tomorrow, it'll be capped at 10, which is still, which is beautiful. It's more attention that you get to give to the client. Yeah. So I really love that. And, I think if you do things right, you can, and there's concepts out there that have 70 people, 60, 70 people in a room. To be able, in that 33, our coaches were able to do an amazing job at giving attention and making sure form is key. Like, we're a big stickler on, making sure people are doing things properly and keeping themselves safe. I take quite a few classes a week, and, when I'm in there, I'll go help out with, if I see somebody, doing something, I'll go help them out, help them with their form. We have coaches that take classes as well. And, we just have this flexibility and understanding with ourselves. Like at some places, some teams, they'd feel like, oh, you're stepping on my toes if you're going to tell this client something in the middle of my class, right? But everybody just works together just beautifully and cohesively to be able to, at the end of the day, our goal, again, is to service the client as best as possible, right? I have a beautiful sign rug at the beginning, at this entrance of our space, which I love. It's my favorite thing. It says, "Leave ego here," right? Yeah. And so that's for our team. That's a reminder for me every single day as I walk in. That's a reminder for our clients, and that's really based on their ego towards themselves in the weight room, right? Not wanting to push things from an egotistical standpoint in there, being reasonable with yourself, being kind to yourself. And so I love that concept of leave ego here. And, there's no room for that on teams. It can be devastating. I've experienced it firsthand. And for personal things, it can be devastating as well. I've seen that firsthand. I'm getting off topic here.
No, it's okay. I mean, you've got a lot of just nuggets that I think are playing into your leadership style.
Yeah. So the future of fitness. So, I didn't know what the cap was going to be for Train Moment of number of people in a class until we got going, right? It's a one-of-one created from nothing. Didn't know how it was going to go until we got it in motion. And I knew I didn't want to just, I did kind of build the space to get up to potentially 36 people. But I wasn't going to force that if it didn't feel right. Right. And I don't think we'll ever get up to 33 again. And that's completely fine. Like I had inklings in my heart and my mind that I wanted to be less people, potentially 18, down the line, who knows when, maybe 18 is the most that we'd ever have in here. Right. And so you get really great interaction with people and make sure people are doing things properly and correctly. And, and it's not about maximizing the profit and the dollar at the end of that's why people want to pack 60 and 70 people inside of a room. It's a numbers game. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're able to stay, not be enslaved to that because, that my wife and I, that's not our motivator. Our motivator isn't maximizing profit. It's maximizing experience and impacting people's lives.
Yeah. I love that. And you know what? It's interesting. As long as you lead with that, you guys are going to be okay. And I know it's easier said than done, but in a world where we're all focused on our business model, we're all focused on pivots. I think a lot of people are maybe focusing on the how. And for you, that could be the technology, that could be the platform, that could be the multi-channel approach, which we've all talked about today. But what I'm hearing from you is you're constantly focused on the why. And at the center of that is your community, it's your customers, and it's the team that you have to support them. And that's what's so refreshing about, connecting with you. And that's what we most appreciate about you and your leadership, Nick. So I really want to, again, thank you for stepping in again to the discussion. Here we are 15 weeks later. I almost feel like if we were to zoom out, this is just like the beginning. It's just the first millimeter of what will be Train Moment and your impact on not just the fitness community, but the community here in Chicago. So where can people find Train Moment? Where can they sign up? How can they take workouts?
Yeah,
because I know I'll be on it. So I want to see some of you working out. Let us know.
So if you want to do some outdoor workouts or indoor workouts with our space in the West Loop at 167 North Des Plaines in Chicago, you can check us out at trainmoment.com. If you're abroad, or even if you're here in Chicago and you want to try it digitally, tmathome.com. tmathome.com. That's for our digital platform. There's a 7-day free trial on there, and there's a lot of great content that you can watch, archived live content there. Keep going right now after this call if you want to work out, or if you have more equipment at home and want to try the on-demand presence, you can do that as well. So trainmoment.com or tmathome.com.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I absolutely encourage everybody to check it out. I encourage you to follow Nick and Katie in their journey. It really is something else. Nick, I'm so fortunate to be a part of it. I'm fortunate to be able to support you, to call you a friend and a leader. So again, I really, really appreciate you joining today, and we look forward to having you back sometime soon.
Certainly. Thank you for having me back, and great talking with you, Anthony.
Wonderful. And I want to thank everybody else who joined, particularly those who registered for the call today. Thank you for your engagement in the chat box. LinkedIn, Facebook, we love you all as well too. I also would like to share that the series continues. Next week, we are live on Wednesday. I know this is like voodoo, but we're changing the date just for next week due to a couple conflicts. So Wednesday afternoon, next week, July 29th, we will be live at 3 p.m. And no, that's not a typo. That is my last name. I'm bringing my twin sister, Christina Ewing, to the table. She's done some incredible work here in Chicago in the mortgage business, and it is about time that she and I sit at the table and unpack everything that she does and maybe tell a couple family stories. So we look forward to you all joining us next week. You can find us at thoughtium.com/live. This episode will be recorded for those of you who want to revisit it. And we really appreciate everybody joining. We look forward to bringing you leaders like Nick, leaders like my twin sister next week, and a whole bunch of other leaders from across the industry on a week-by-week basis. Thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of the afternoon.